everyone, how's it going? Excited to be here on the ever-going bi-weekly Q&A. It's great to see everybody. Great to see people each and every week coming in, always looking to learn more about medical device sales, and that's really the big goal. And first thing I'll just always say is I always love seeing where you guys are from. And so if you guys want to just drop in where you guys are from, it's so much fun to see you. But also just wanted to give a little recap this last week. In the past weeks, we were in Vegas right after our last one, went to this National Sales Network. And then from there, after we did the National Sales Network, it was a lot of fun. We got to meet with a lot of great companies, a lot of great people. But we did want to give a couple shout outs. Got Miss Cassandra hired with Stryker at over $170,000, which was absolutely amazing. And then we also ended up getting Robert. He broke in. He was originally making $80,000, just got in at $125,000 in medical device sales. And then actually we just recorded a podcast yesterday with one of our guys, Kyle, where he came from valet and he was making under $40,000 a year. And now we just got him hired with a top medical device company at over six figures. So it's been a lot of fun, a lot of advancements, a lot of growth, but just really excited to be with everybody and would love to see where you guys are from. So if you guys haven't, drop where you're in the chat, because I always love learning more and more where you guys are from, and we can get us going that way. And again, what today's goal is going to be is how to help you guys break into medical device sales, and not only break into medical device sales, but also how to make yourself a very strong competitive candidate with the things you learned today. You'll be able to have a carryover and do once you're actually inside of the industry, right? So we're always focused on making sure that you guys get everything that you need to be able to break into this industry. But also on top of that, we want to make sure that you guys are just doing the right things to have yourself separate yourself. And so really excited to just be able to help you all today that we've been able to do. We were getting a lot of great feedback on this. And so really excited to continue to go. But as we get into it today, it looks like we got some shy people. As we get into it today, really, really excited to just get into what we're doing and what we're here to help you all with, and kind of just go into a little bit about who I am before we get started too much into it, and like why should you guys listen to me. So just long story short, you guys can also always see this on our LinkedIn, but my name is Jacob McLaughlin, originally from Iowa. Decided I wanted to move out here to Scottsdale, Arizona when I was 23 years old, going from personal training. And so I made the move and then was doing personal training, and then decided, hey, I think I want to do medical device sales, and started looking into that. But just like many of you might be right now, I didn't know much about it. And so I started just reaching out to individuals, getting told that, hey, you have to go get all this sales experience and be able to have the perfect background. But the hard part is you're not able to get in the industry unless you had industry experience. So that didn't make much sense to me. So I was always like, that's interesting. But then thankfully I was working with a lot of top end performers, entrepreneurs, business owners while I was in doing personal training. And so we were able to help people come in, and they were just encouraging me. They were saying, hey, Jacob, maybe you should look at going into medical device sales, but don't listen to what the background of that they're saying, because you have what they're looking for, and you just have to be able to show these skills. And so because of that, I listened to them. I ended up getting 4 job offers, Stryker, J&J, Zimmer. And then I took a full line rep role. So at 25, I skipped the associate, came in as a full line rep with Medtronic. And then from there, I was able to go and take the lowest performing territory in the nation to number 8 that first year, so top 10. And then from there, I got headhunted, went and was with a company out of the UK. And then from there, had a lot of success, a lot of fun, and closed some good deals. And from there, been able to help over 2,000 people break into medical device sales. And so documented the whole journey. You guys can go watch it all on LinkedIn. You guys can go LinkedIn. You can see all that journey, but you can also see it on YouTube. We document everything. So just always making sure that we're able to help you guys in that process, document it to show you it's real. And then now that's got us into wanting to just help people break into medical device sales. But the most common thing I always hear is, where do I start? Where do I start to break into medical device sales? And this is a great question, because most people don't know where to go. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. And so the big aspect of this is the best thing I can always say is LinkedIn is going to be your best friend. LinkedIn is going to be your best friend for breaking into medical device sales. It's going to be your best friend for doing networking, connecting with people. And you want to make sure that you're really going to be able to stand out on it, because LinkedIn is really going to be how you're doing it. Now, with that said, you're going to go LinkedIn, and we're going to dive a little deeper into LinkedIn today. But also from there, what you guys need to understand is, what are you doing in the background to make yourself a strong candidate? So if somebody does get on a call with you, or you do get the interview process, how are you able to actually stand out? So for us, with you all, we really want you guys to focus on how to be able to utilize everything to, even when you get a call, how are you going to be the one that's getting the next call of like, hey, you got to the second round, the third round. And just to go off on this a little bit is like, literally every single day, all we do is get people hired at over six figures. Literally just this week, we've gotten 3 people hired at over six figures. And also one of our guys, Ben, so shout out to Ben, he actually just got hired with Medtronic, literally not even being in for 4 weeks into the program, right? And so the biggest thing that I want you guys to really focus on is, we always say most people struggle to get into this industry is because they don't understand how to get into this industry. And just so we're very clear, many of the reps that you're going to get on a conversation with don't truly understand the process. They might know that it's a couple interviews, but they don't even know that it's 5 to 7 interviews plus 500 plus people. And they don't know that all the different interview processes at the different companies, right? So just want to kind of educate you all as we go into this process, because my whole goal at the end of this is we're going to open it up for question and answers, and to be able to answer questions for you so you guys can start having success right away. But the bigger thing is, I want you all to know is, where do you start medical device sales? Well, first off, it's doing your research. Make sure that you come prepared, that you actually know what to do. But also then, how do we get on LinkedIn and how do we utilize it, right? But before we go into the networking aspect of it, I really want to go into why applying isn't enough, right? So what many people do, and the biggest mistakes I see when people are first learning about medical device sales, is they don't understand how competitive it is. So I like to take a little bit of time to just educate you all on how competitive it is. For example, on average, we see the average interview process, 5 to 7 interviews, 6 to 12 weeks long, and it can go up against 500 plus people, right? We've had some people even have interview processes that lasted 10 interviews, right? And why is it so competitive? It's because if you just do a quick Google, about the average rep is going to make around $177,000. They're normally going to get their car paid for, or they get a car stipend. They're also going to get their gas paid for, or a gas stipend. They get some of the best insurance. They're going to get very good retirement, right? Then on top of it, you guys get to be with doctors, surgeons, great networks. You're adding a great opportunity to provide value to great people who can eventually help you out. And then also, they're getting to sell a product that truly changes people's lives. And as you heard, just by being in the industry, and if you're the average rep, you will be in the top 10% of Americans, right? And so that's why it's so extremely competitive, and that's why so many people want to do it. And so this is why it's so important for you all to be able to go and stand out in the most important ways, because just like yourself, there's other 22-year-olds, 24-year-olds, but there's also other physical therapists that are 38 years old. There's other sales reps that are 40 years old. There's other people from different industries that want to get in this. And here's the bigger piece that most people don't think about. There's people right now working at a Stryker that want to go work at a Medtronic, or a smaller company that want to work at one of those bigger companies, because they want to make a transition. And so you're not only going up against other people with maybe not as much experience or the same non-experience as you, you're actually usually going up against people who have more experience, because they want what we just mentioned. And so you just have to understand the competitive landscape that actually comes in when you guys are trying to break into medical device sales. Because again, when I always have the joke, everyone wants to make good money, have a good work-life balance, have their car and gas and everything paid for. There are a lot of times they'll pay for your cell phone bill, they'll pay for your Wi-Fi. Like usually in just in incentives, we see between about $10,000 to $20,000 of extra add-ons that people are going to see, right? And so it's just a very competitive thing. And then also, again, being able to be in sales where you make a difference in people's lives. You're selling a product that truly will change somebody's life, and you get to work with great human beings, like I said, that have a great network as well. We actually just had one of our doctors on the podcast that will go out a little later this month, where he talks about, like, he has 10 separate businesses. And it's like, That's pretty cool to be around in those rooms. And then now you're providing value to those people and they want to see like work with you in the future as well. So that's what I would just tell you guys is that's really the main focus for everybody is you have to understand why applying isn't enough because if you just apply, you're one of the 500 plus applicants. And just understand if you see it on LinkedIn, there's more on Indeed, there's more on other job posting boards, right? And so you're one of many applicants. And then they also do put in AI, where AI is going to be going through everything. And they're going to make sure that if you don't have what they need, it's going to unfortunately not get you past to the next round, right? We actually just talked with a team where they actually send out an assessment. And if you don't pass the assessment, you don't even get into the first round, right? So just understand that's how competitive it really gets. And then from there, when you get into that aspect of everything, like, okay, so let's say you make it past the applicants. How do you actually make sure that you're a strong candidate, right? Now, the one thing I just want to say to the applying, though, is just understand if you just apply, it's you're just a stack of resumes. They pull your name out. And now what's the difference between you and the other 500 people? Well, you're going to say your experience and all of that good stuff. But the reality of it is there's not much, right? You're going to have to come. And then we always say you're a couple steps behind in that aspect, right? So that's what I want you guys to always focus on. So when we're doing everything, just make sure that you guys are focusing on, hey, don't just apply because it's going to go into what we're talking to right now. When it goes into how do I network properly, because the same amount of time, let's say it takes an hour for you to do a bunch of applications, cover letters, everything that you're putting in together for these applications, you could take that exact same time and go get on multiple phone calls that would then put you in a better spot to then go get hired, right? And so this is where I just always want to teach you guys, like, do the job to get the job. What many people you're going to hear about is I work hard or I work long hours, but there's a big difference between working and being productive. You could sit there, if you're one of the people on here, you could sit here for 12 hours and put in applications. And if you don't have exactly what they're looking for, you are going to tell people you worked really hard and did 12 hours of work. But what you actually just did was wasted a lot of 12 hours of work because it doesn't do you any good if you do that. And then it's not productive, right? It's not leading to anything compared to you might get on one phone call and that one phone call will actually lead to more outcome than if you put on 50 applications. So just to understand, start switching the mindset of the difference of being busy, working hard, busy, and being productive, right? That's the focus on it because it's the same thing once you're in sales. You're going to have a pipeline, you're going to have a quota. There's a lot of reps who are going to tell you how much they love working 12-hour days. And it's like, you probably could have left after 4 and then done other things for your territory that moves the needle that got you at 6 or 7 hours, and you would have accomplished more than you did in 12. Now, again, the one caveat I will always say, it depends on the division and the company you're at, because there are some divisions that you're in a surgery and it takes 10 hours. So there's that piece of it. But how do you network properly? Well, the first thing that you guys just need to understand is making sure that you are actually reaching out to these people in the right way. So when you actually reach out, instead of saying, I want to pick your brain or, hey, do you know of any jobs? You have to understand people on LinkedIn and people of these reps and managers are getting hundreds of messages a year, right? And so you need to understand that you need to stand out. You need to be different. And many times I see, because I still receive these messages, many of you put the bare minimum effort in and want a massive outcome. You all want a job for over 6 figures, over $100,000. And you say, hey, how's it going? Right? Like, or, hey, can I pick your brain? Or, hey, do you know of anybody who can give me a job? Like, we see it every single day. And this is why many of you won't make more than $70,000, $80,000, because you're all saying you want to make 6 figures, but you literally do the bare minimum. And so a little mindset shift I hopefully can just encourage you all on is, most people think I'm going to do the bare minimum work and try to make the most. But what high achievers and top performers all do is they're going to say, I'm going to do the most amount of work. And then my pay is going to be so valuable. I'm going to make myself so valuable that they'll pay me whatever it is, right? And so just a little mindset change on that. But then how do you network properly? Well, when you get these reps, like you send a message, have you kept it short, because you're reaching out to salespeople. Salespeople do not want to read long messages. We want to keep it nice and short, maybe a couple sentences to a paragraph. And then from there, did you add your phone number, right? Because what you have to understand is many reps will go and check their phone out of cases, and they'll be willing to give you a call right away compared to if you don't do that. Now they can reply back to you and say, yes, I'm happy to get on a call with you. But now they're going to be at the mercy of waiting for you. And the whole goal of sales is make the other person's life as easy as possible. So if you add their phone number, then they can just send you a quick call. Then on top of that, have you done any research? Now, where this research can come from is, have you talked to any other reps? Have you talked to any other people? But on top of that, have you looked at the website? There's this cool thing now that you can use called ChatGPT. And literally within about 30 to 45 seconds, you can know more by just taking a website, throwing it in and asking a couple questions than you could even by getting on calls with reps, right? And so it's just learning how to utilize AI the correct way that can make you sound very, very prepared. And that's what you're going to want to do when you guys are getting on these calls with these reps so that you actually stand out. Now, how are we going to stand out once you get on LinkedIn? LinkedIn is the platform. I always tell people it's your online resume. This is where people are going to be finding you. This is the first thing when you reach out to them. They're going to say, hey, let me go check this person out on LinkedIn, right? And so a couple of things that we always make sure that our people have, and that what we very much push for you all is, do you have a big piece of this of, do you have a good photo? Do you have a good photo that makes yourself look very professional? Do you look like you can stand out, right? Many times we'll see people posting photos from like weddings and stuff, which is great. It's when we see the other photos of people who are like the bachelors drinking and they're posting themselves with a beer on it, or they have a low lighted, they're in a t-shirt. It's not a very professional look. And you have to understand LinkedIn is a professional setting, right? It's a business setting. It's where a bunch of CEOs, medical device companies, salespeople, top execs are on, right? It's not Facebook. It's not your Instagram. So you have to make sure you have a good photo in your about section. Put enough that they get to know who you are and they find you intriguing, but don't be talking about how you just want a job because everyone knows you want a job. Now, real quick, the one thing with that, if you want a job, please, especially if you want to break into sales, is do not put the open to sale or open to work banner on your LinkedIn. It's one of the things we're very against here. The reason why that is because for us, and everyone can have their different opinions, but for us, why we don't feel that way is because if you're a top performer, if you're a top sales rep, or if you're going to come in and be a top performer, they're hunters. They're people who go and hustle. They're people who go and grab, compared to when you put an open to work on, it's here's my handout. What do you have for me? Right. And just understand, for salespeople, there's nothing for you. You have to go get it. And so for us, we want to focus on and not having you guys focus on just starting with, hey, how can you help me? Because again, in this industry, everyone wants to make good money. Everybody wants to do that. Everyone's asking for a handout. Everyone's asking for a job. Everyone's messaging these reps. Do you know of a job? Can you help me out? Right. But the whole conversation that every rep and every manager will always have is, what are you doing for yourself to help you? Right. So once you have a good LinkedIn profile pic, once you have a good and about section, make sure that you have all your up-to-date work experiences, right? Where did you go to college at? Did you do any extra volunteering? Also, what have you been doing for work, right? Because we always tell people, no matter what the work is, make sure to include it. Because, for example, we've had someone who they were working at a golf course and they were actually like cleaning the clubs and had to go grab the carts. And that actually played very well into their interview process, because if you actually could translate it, it was like, hey, worked long hours, got to talk with doctors and high-end professionals. Also, they got tips from them, right? Because they did a good job. So there's a lot of carryover to it, but make sure you have an up-to-date LinkedIn, because again, that's where they're going to go and look. And then going back to the messaging, right? A couple of tips on that. Instead of just pressing connect and then sending with a no, it's going to give you the option to just send request or send with a no. We always encourage our people, do not send with a no. And here's why. First off, if you send with a note, it only has 300 characteristics, right? Or the 300 characters. So like for you, you can only write 300 characters, which isn't a very long sentence. That's number one. So it's gonna make it shorter. Number two, it starts with the first thing you're doing is an ask, right? Hey, wanted to reach out because I see you're a medical device sales, blah, 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 right? The first thing you're doing is you're asking. So don't do that. Just press a connect. And number 3, it's a big time waster because let's just go here. Let's just say you guys go connect with 50 people. But if you spent all that time writing a message for each person, what if only half of them go? Well, then that means you wasted 25 of those messages that you could have gone compared to if you just press connect, right? The other thing I do just want to mention, if there is like only a follow button, if you go 2 over, there's going to be the little dots, like 3 dots. If you click on those dots, if you go halfway down, it will say connect. So that's one way to use LinkedIn to help you be able to actually go and get some success right away of just like connecting with people, sending a short message, adding your phone number. And then when they go check out your LinkedIn, do they actually think that you're a high quality candidate that they want to spend time with, right? Because that's what you guys are all trying to do right now is how are you different than the other 20 people that reached out to them this month, right? Like, how are you different than everyone else that's in their DMs asking for a job, right? So that's what you really want to focus on. And then lastly, the biggest thing that everyone always asks me, and then we're going to get into questions and answers and be able to answer all your questions. So if you guys haven't, start dropping some of your questions in the chat and we can make sure to answer those. But how do you stand out to land a 6-figure job? And so I think the best way to explain it is how we just took Kyle, which we just recorded his podcast yesterday, and he went from being valet and making $40,000, right? 22 years old. And then he just had his birthday. So shout out, Kyle. And then now 23, broken at 6 figures and got in with a top medical device company with no previous experience. How did he do that? It's because he stood out as a 6-figure person. And so how do we stand out as a 6-figure applicant? Well, number 1, do they mention your age at all, right? The biggest thing I can just sit here and tell you is one thing that never got brought up after the first time of like, hey, you're this age, is his age, because he continued to show what I always teach our team is maturity is the number 1 goal. Age has nothing to do with it, because I come from small town Iowa and I know a lot of 50-year-olds who are immature, right? There's a lot of people in the business world immature, and it's why they're capped at a certain amount, right? Because they don't have the professionalism and they don't have the maturity to go to the next step, right? So for you guys, that's what you really need to focus on is the maturity aspect of, hey, do you hold yourself? Like we have a team member, we tell them all the time, I don't care what your age is, we're going to hold you to the standard of a very professional 30-year-old, right? Like that's what I am. That's the standard we're holding you to. You need to raise to that. And so just understand, again, maturity comes over age. That's number 1. Number 2, were you prepared, right? So the biggest thing for someone to be 6 figures, what we always tell people is you can't just be an applicant, because many people are like, I hope I can just get a job. The real focus though are you doing what's needed so this person looks at you as a peer-to-peer, or do they believe that they could slot you in today and that you've done so much research, you've talked to so many people that you could literally just be like, hey, let's have them go right now, right? And so what I want you to think about is, are you getting looked at that peer-to-peer level to where you guys and girls can go and have the opportunity to put yourself in those rooms? And it doesn't matter if it's for, the $80,000 associate job or the $150,000 full line rep role. Can you sit in both? And can you be really impressive in both? And that's the standard. And one thing I have our people always switch the mindset on is I made the comment, 80K, right? And many times I'll get on calls with people from like LinkedIn and people will reach out to me and they'll be like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then I always ask them just one question. And I say, hey, if this position was posted for $300,000, would you show up and would you have prepared differently? And the number 1 answer is always, oh yeah, totally. I would have done something way different. And I'm like, and that is why you didn't get the job. Because if you're just looking at the number, you guys are then going to not prepare the way you need to. But if you actually look at it like it's a $300,000 job, because just transparently, you go land a job at 100, 150K, like in the next couple of years, it's going to be, right? And then also just understand OTE is just OTE, on target earnings, for people who don't know who OTE is. And right. And so from there, if you go over OTE, you made more than the on target earnings or what they put at plan. So you just have to understand that's how you have to look at this. And then throughout that process for Kyle, again, going back to that peer-to-peer, he would go into the next interview process knowing how to do it. Again, going back to, many people don't know the difference between interviews 1, 3, 5, and 7. They also don't understand that J&J, Stryker, and Zimmer are all going to do it different. right? And so if you don't know the differences between the top companies and these big companies, and you don't know the differences between how the interview process is going to go, and the number one is different than 3, that's different than 5, then it's tough. And then all of you are trying to figure it out as you go. And then if you do anything for the first time, you're usually not the best at it. And then you've never really had mock interviews, mock role plays. That's what we help with. But like going into that aspect, and then you're like, well, what do I do? Right. And then you guys are figuring out what to do in the process, compared to if you can network, research, get on the calls, and then prepare the right way. Then you can come in, and that's where we're having the conversation. It doesn't matter age, it just matters the maturity that you're going to bring into it. And so for everybody here that's really wanting to stand out and land a 6-figure job, the one thing I'm just going to sit here and tell you is, what's the preparation that you're doing? How are you showing up? And here's the biggest piece that I want to just hopefully help somebody with is, do you believe that you're worth whatever they're going to pay? And what I mean by that is not, do you want to make it? Because if I say, hey, it's $200,000, you'll all be like, yeah, 200,000, I'm just worth it. Yep. But like, no, truly, if I put you up against a 36-year-old who's a physical therapist who has run their own clinic and made 180 grand, would you beat that person? And if you can't, without a doubt, without hesitation, without even thinking for a second, yes, you probably haven't done enough, and you're probably not doing enough right now, right? And then take it to another step is take the physical therapist out of it, because you might have a different background. Could you go against somebody who was working at those top companies right now, but maybe they're associate, and you go for the same role? Could you beat them? Even though you're going to be 2 steps down, and they're going to be saying, hey, this person already has some experience, but are you doing enough to be just as competitive as that candidate? And if the answer is no, or the answer is like, well, how would I? Because I don't have it. That's why you're losing. That's why you're not going to get the jobs. That's why you're not beating out these people, because every single time we'll always hear, and I just wrote about it on our LinkedIn today, is, oh, you don't have enough experience. Literally for the last 2.5 years, all we've shown is everybody we get hired doesn't have the right experience. Kyle working valet to go make a 6-figure job didn't have the right experience. But if you do the right things throughout the job, then you're able to get the jobs. And so what I just want to include to every single person is, what's the preparation right? Like, do you know the competitors? Do you know the territory? Do you know the products? Do you know the competitive products? Do you know why you're stand out? What's your competitive edge, right? Like, if you can't answer those off a whim, you're going to struggle through the interview process. And then it's like, how do you find that out? The networking piece, the conversations, the other resources that are out there. And so that's what I just want everybody to truly understand. So we're going to get into question and answers, because that's what this is all about, and Q&As. And so I want you guys to drop your questions that you have. So the rest of the time that we have together is literally just going to be answering all of your questions. But I wanted to start with how we just started it, because I wanted to make sure that you guys truly understand there's probably some things that we could do right now to make you a better candidate. And that's always my goal, is help you, give you the value that you can go crush it. And now we can answer some questions. So now we can go into some of the questions that you guys have. If you guys have them, just make sure to drop them in the chat, and then we'll be able to answer all your questions that you have. So, Alan, if you're starting your senior year this semester and aspire to break into the industry after graduation, how would you use the next few months if you were in my shoes? So, Alan, first off, great question. We get a lot of people who come and join us, whether it's 6 months in, 12 months in to their senior year, like they still have 12 months or 6 months before they graduate, or like 3 months. But like, let me just tell you this. The number one thing that you're going to be able to do is network. But here's the biggest thing that people miss when you're going through that networking aspect is, are you, going back to what I just said, take your age out of it, take that you're a senior in college out of it, take out that you're young, that you might not have the experience. Are you showing up on those calls as someone who is taken as a very competitive candidate? Because if you can't even graduate, right? So you're starting the semester, if you couldn't even graduate for 12 months, that's okay. But let's just say you got on a call with 5 people a week, right? 1 person a day, right? And you did that for a year. Well, or let's just even say like 9 months, whatever it is, you would have hundreds of people that you would have networked with, right? So like, just think about that. If you did 5 people a week and you did 20 weeks, which isn't even half a year, right? You would have 100 human beings. And so then it's just keeping a list of that, and then having your Excel sheets or whatever you're going to do, and making sure that you're reaching back out to them And then how are you going to go through that aspect of it, right? So I think that's a big piece of going through this process of making sure that no matter how long, is just making sure you're a competitive candidate. Now, number two, the one thing I'll just say for you, Alan, is make sure that you start earlier than later, because the last thing I'll just say is, like, many people see our average person, we get hired in about 2 months. They'll be like, hey, I'm going to come join you 2 months before, right? But why many companies don't like this is because it's like you're going to get on a call and you're going to say, hey, this is something I've been thinking about a long time, but I just waited until the last 3 months before I graduate. Now I'm trying something, right? And they're going to be like, well, if you actually were like thinking about this, you would have done some moves before the last 2-3 months. And so I'll just sit here and tell you the people we've worked with, that especially we've worked with for like 6 to 12 months, like the biggest thing we've been able to help is like a lot of them, they do come in and at over 6 figures, but also bigger is they secure jobs before they graduate, because it's all the prep work you're doing beforehand, instead of most people are usually like the last 3 to 6 months thinking about it, but then they struggle because they also have semester testing going through it. So my best advice is, with what you're doing, make sure that you're continuing to network and create those relationships, and then foster those relationships over the next semester and the next year. All right. What do you recommend someone who has applied to multiple sales positions, reached out via LinkedIn, but haven't heard back, even though you have healthcare management? So, Laura, that's a great question. A couple of things. Number one, going back to what we said earlier, just applying is not going to do anything from that. So I would just have you focus on where you're at. But when you guys are really focusing on wanting to get into medical device sales, applying is not going to be your number one goal. You're going to want to really focus on networking, getting on those relationships, having those comments. And then from there, if you aren't getting where you want to, it's going to be looking at your messaging. We see this all the time. Many people are going to be, hey, I want to reach out to you. I want to connect with you. I want to be able to have a conversation with you. But what are you doing to have yourself stand out? Going back to, if you have a shorter, really concise message that you took some time to write, saw their background, and then added their phone number, that will help you at least stand out in that aspect, right? And so our whole focus for every single person is, how do you continue to come in and stand out throughout that process, so you personally can make sure that you are that strong candidate. So my advice to you, Laura, is, instead of just continuing to apply and then like reach out, but you're not hearing anything, make sure that you do the LinkedIn piece of it. But what's your LinkedIn look like, right? Do you have your everything professional and headshots? And do you have everything like up to date on your LinkedIn profile? And then from there, with your messaging, are you writing just a general message? Is it a very concise message? Like, there's a lot of that goes into there. And then it's just going to be a volume game. Because the one thing I'll sit here and say is, most people will say, hey, I reached out to 3 to 5 companies, or I reached out to 3 to 5 reps. And it's like, you need to do a lot more than 3 to 5. I would say 3 to 5 a day. And then just from that aspect, getting on conversations with people. And then if you can do that aspect with people and get on with them, then it's, are you coming prepared? Are you having those conversations? So I think that's the big thing. And for you, Laura, I wouldn't spend too much more time applying, even though you have a great background, healthcare management. Again, going back to what we said earlier in the Q&A, if you just apply, it's not going to go very far, just because there's 300 to 500 applicants. Usually you're going to have a lot of people reaching out to these companies. And then also they have AI. And if they don't see the numbers that they're wanting to see, it's not going to go very far, right? So that's one of the biggest things that I want us to just focus on. And with that, I just want you guys to really focus really on the networking piece. And then if you're not getting a response, it's, what can we work on and what can we fix in that networking response, right? Like, so again, we just always teach our team, if you did send out 15 messages and you got 0 responses, okay, well, let's try for another 15. And maybe it was just a bad batch. But then if you send out another 15 messages and you got 0 more responses, okay, what needs to change? What do we need to work on? Because that means our messaging most likely probably isn't where it needs to be. And so then that way you guys can actually focus on making that change. So, all right, Alan, as a senior marketing major, B2B sales intern, server at a steakhouse, what questions and interviews what be the hardest question they can ask me on how you can make up for your clinical? What question in the interview would be the hardest question they can ask me? Well, Alan, just so you know, the easiest question they can ask you, so it's not going to be the hardest, but it's going to be the hardest for you, is you don't have any of the experience they're looking for. Why would you choose you? And so if you can't overcome that piece, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna be challenged to actually overcome that question, because that's the easiest one they can say is, hey, if you don't have sales experience or if you don't have clinical, and then you can say, well, I do have sales experience because I was doing serving, but they're going to be like, okay, great, you served food, but you didn't actually go to the OR and sell stuff. So just understand, like, the interview process of a med device company is normally going to tell you why you're not a good candidate, and then you have to overturn them, right? So that's a couple of them that would go. So I would just encourage you there is, it's just being able to bring your past experiences and overcome them. You can drop more questions that maybe you have more specific, but like, the hardest is going to be actually the easiest question they're going to ask you. And the first thing they probably start with is they're going to be like, well, you don't have anything and you're 22. We have someone who's 32 who could have the exact same experience, but they're just more mature. So we'll just choose them. Right. And then you'd have to overcome that. So there's that one. Now let's do this one. Hi, Jacob. I finally got the position as an associate clinical specialist, right? Nice. Congratulations with the neurovascular sector. What's your best advice to stand out in this role and do a good job? Great question. So first off, congratulations. Amazing to see you actually break in. The biggest thing that I always teach people is the number one thing I hear from all the new reps is, I'm going to go crush it. I'm going to make a bunch of money. I'm going to make a bunch of sales, or I'm going to, like, I want to win an MVP and all of the aspects. And just so you guys know, it's great. And you want to have those goals. Those are great goals to have. But what my focus on every single person is in the first 3 months, especially, or 6 months, because neurovascular is going to be a very intense space. But like, for you, can you learn the product? Can you learn the competitive product? Do you know the differences of that? Like, actually be very clinically sound to where you're not always having to text, ask, all that aspect. Like, the first 3 months, first 6 months is really just learning as much as you can. Then on top of that, for yourself, can you continue to learn the relationships, right? So everybody always talks about they're going to grow. They're going to be like, hey, I'm going to go get this company or whatever it is. Again, you're more in a clinical role, which is great, but just understand, for you, what's going to be extremely helpful for you is learning the names of the staff, learning how to actually get to the OR. Like, I'll just never forget my first month, I had to show up to every place an hour early because I had to try to navigate, where is the OR? Where do I grab scrubs at? Like, how do I even get in, and all that aspect of it. So it's just learning the systems that you're actually in. And then from there, navigating it, then building the relationships of the team that you're in there, create relationships with, nurses, staff, all of that aspect of it. Show yourself as a resource. And then from there, just consistently just put your head down, an absolute grind. Because I would just sit here and tell you, after helping a lot of people, if you just close your eyes, I always tell our team, close your eyes for the first 6 months and just work every single day. Watch what happens. You'll be in a really good spot if you do that, instead of what many people do is they focus on all the things they're going to do, but then they still can't tell you the difference between your product and the competitors, or they can't tell you the specific question that has been asked 3 times. And so they skip over it because they're just continuing to focus on, well, if I do this, my next promotion will be here. But if you just focused on the current job you're doing really well, watch it all come. So, all right. So Alan, ortho trauma or wound construction for breaking difference, how the interview process differ from one another. So Alan, great question. So trauma and like wound construction. So like, I would just tell you, like, you're looking at the ortho space and all of that aspect. Here's the reality of it is, like, you can 100% go in there. Ortho is an absolute grind, especially in the trauma world. A lot of people get their start in it, but normally they won't last for more than a year or two. And again, just so you guys know, like, just talk to a guy, actually works at a great company. He's now in the cardiac space, makes over 6 figures, does very well. But he told me about his first 2 years. He lived here in Phoenix, did trauma, didn't even make $55,000. And he lived with a bunch of roommates, but he was never home. He was on call 365, 24/7. And then, for example, after 6 years, he's now barely breaking what we just got Kyle hired at 22 years old, 23. He just had his birthday. So the reason I'm just saying that is, like, the biggest thing you just have to understand, there's going to be a lot of different divisions. A lot of people just think about ortho. Ortho's a great, again, I know people in ortho that absolutely love it. The thing we focus on is we work with a lot of people who talk about work-life balance, career trajectory, and how much money they can financially make. And one of the things is trauma is probably not the one that we're always pushing towards. It doesn't mean we don't get people hired there, but it would be the one that thing I would focus on, just for some information, Alan. But also the biggest difference is honestly, a lot of times, as long as you're willing to work and show up to work, that it's such a high turnover job that most people, I've gotten people hired back in the day when I first started about 3 years ago, and everyone's like, I'm willing to do it. And then a month later they quit because they're not willing to run on 4 hours of sleep. So everyone's in a little different spot. So what specific knowledge about medical device sales in the industry is essential? So this is a great question. So I think the biggest thing is just understanding that there's so many different divisions in medical device sales, and understanding that, like, many people, what they think, like we just said, is ortho is the only thing that's available. And so when you think about that aspect of it, is there's neuromodulation, there's cardiac, like CRM, right? You can go into rhythm management, like all the CRM, right? Cardiac rhythm management. Like you can go into capital sales. You can go into when you get into like the more of like the ASI, right? Advanced surgical. You can get into, like, there's so many different ones, minimally invasive. Like I was in GYN. So it's just understanding that there's so many different divisions. And what I just said, each one is so different from the other. There's companies that are all different from each other. And then from that aspect of it is each one has such a different world, right? You can think about like a GYN world, and it matters what device, even in the GYN world that you're selling, is going to have a different work-life balance than ortho trauma, right? And so it's like, is this one scheduled? This one's not scheduled. This was a car accident. This isn't a car accident, right? Like, so just understand that if you're wanting to come in here, it's just understanding how broad this industry is. And what common mistake I see many people make is they're like, well, I just have to learn the anatomy of this company. But the problem is if you start working with 3 different companies, right? Let's just say you were working in shoulder, right? And then you start doing foot and ankle, right? And then you do the GI. Well, you're now going through the 3 interview processes, and you're all focusing on the anatomy, but then you guys can't actually answer the question of what we said is you don't have the clinical experience. Why would we choose you over them? And then you guys stumble on your words. And that's really why you don't move on. So it's actually not the clinical, it's not that educational part, because the medical device companies are actually going to teach you all that. It's you guys don't know the difference between interviews 1, 3, 5, and 7. And you don't understand that you're going up against hundreds of people who all want to make 6 figures and that. And it's more focusing on you as the candidate rather than what information you're going to be able to tell them. So Adam, which question do you recommend asking industry professionals during a networking call? So Adam, that great question, but honestly, that's such a broad question, because it's going to be like, you should make it specific to the person you're talking to. Like, are you talking to someone in robotics? Are you talking to someone from capital? Are you talking to, like, this is where, just so you guys know, just doing literally 5 seconds of going to their LinkedIn and looking at where they've worked, you can usually formulate like, oh, I saw you were at this company, and you look it up real quick and it was robotics, right? And now I see that you're in catheters. Like, what made you make the switch? Like, those questions will really help you in that aspect of it. Just because, again, the easiest ones you guys can always ask is like, what got you into the industry? What made you want to do medical device sales? How'd you find out about it? Like, those are simple general ones, but that's not going to have you stand out, right? If you want to stand out, you actually need to know what they sell, how long they've sold it, and then like that aspect of it, and then being able to learn more about what division and what product they're selling, and then ask high level questions to that. But when it's just like getting on a networking call, like, my biggest thing is, have you actually done research? Do you know what company they work for? Do you know what they sell? Right. And if you don't know that, like, what questions do you have formatted to actually ask those questions so you can learn? So it's an actual learning call and not just asking questions just to try to stand out. What are the typical career paths and opportunities for advancement? So that's a great question. So the big thing that people a lot of times will miss when they're going into the path is, like, normally it's associate sales rep role to, then if you're in the sales world, then you're going to go into the territory manager role, full line sales rep role. You do that aspect of it. Then if you do that good enough, a lot of times it'll be like field sales trainer. Then from there, then you'd be probably looking at like a hiring manager world, right? Regional manager, district manager, all of that aspect of it. So that's a lot of the paths. So again, now if you have a clinical, you might come in as an associate clinical, then as a clinical, and then sometimes the clinicals will do like a clinical 1, a clinical 2. they're going that. And then you could be the trainer. Like one of our team members is actually the whole trainer for one of the top companies that's all she does is clinical training for the team. So that's really cool. But then that aspect, and then there's a lot of different advancements they can go. And then sometimes people will go from the sales or clinical world into education, or they can go into marketing. So there's a lot of different pathways that you guys can go. The one thing I would just sit here and tell you is what we focus on is like really getting people in at more than normally the entry level, or if we are going entry level, we're going to go that higher in entry level because most people will tell you that you need to go work at like an ADP, Centasa sales background, when the reality of is every single day we show you don't have to do that, right? So you don't need to go do that background, but then you can come in, and the entry levels all vary and every company is different. But for example, we got one of our guys, Cade, 23 years old, hired at a full-time sales rep, OT is $170,000, right? So it's like, it just matters where you're trying to go and how you're preparing. So if you guys have any more questions, happy to answer any more. Feel free to chat them, but we'll keep answering a couple. So do I need medical or science background to get a medical device sales? So just so you guys know, we hear this one all the time. You don't necessarily need that as long as you have a 4-year degree. And even on the 4-year degree, we've helped people not break in with 4-year degrees. So you don't necessarily need one. I will just always be as truthful as I can. If you don't have a 4-year degree, do not talk about normally going to a large company like a Medtronic, a Stryker, or all those, because normally that's just a minimum requirement because they get so many applicants. There are some companies that we now know of that have taken that away, but then they're going to ask for more experience. But not necessarily do you have to have one. I had exercise science, which yes, I had an anatomy, but we get plenty of people with like a marketing, a business background, but we get people finance. Like we've had all different types of backgrounds be able to break into medical device sales. All right, Jason, I just want to say, hey, proud of you, man. So just so you guys know, Jason's actually one of our guys who came in, crushed it, living his best life. So appreciate you, man. Love absolutely being able to help people change their life just like he did. And so great to see you, brother. It's awesome to always get to see people. But yeah, guys, just understand for us, what I want you guys to understand when you guys are wanting to break into medical device sales, it's all about preparation. It's about doing it. And what many people miss is that they think they're just doing another job, right? So one of the things that I really wanted to do just to be able to help you all is I wanted to put a link to, just a bunch of companies that are out there, right? The big thing for me is I just always want to provide as much value as I can. And a lot of times the most common question I hear is, Jacob, where do I even start? Where do I go? And so for me, what I thought we could do, me and my team, we've put it together, is like, we want you guys to be able to have resources. And so for us and our team, we'll drop a link where you can actually go and sign in, and you guys will actually get a list of over 100 companies that can actually help you guys break into medical device sales. So you guys actually know, and we did a couple breakdowns of them for you all, whether like it's division or it's the size of the company, because that's another thing that people come in and they're not really sure about where to go, right? They're also not sure about like, hey, what's the different sizes of companies, and what's the difference between a large company and a small company, and just all those different aspects. And a lot of times, even when I ask people, I'm like, hey, what companies are you looking at? Can you name 5? And a lot of times they can't. And so what we wanted to do is just give you guys more resources, just so you guys can actually put that in, have access to those, and actually just give you guys some helpful free resources, because we always wanted to say thank you so much for just being on here. We appreciate you all. Again, the whole goal is to just continue to help you guys continue to break into medical device sales. Now, the one thing I just want you guys to know for us is the focus for us is always helping you guys get it. A lot of times we get a lot of people who are like, Jacob, I'm really committed, I'm really driven, I'm really ready to go, but I really just don't know what to do, or I've been doing it for 3-6+ months and I'm just struggling. And so the one thing I just want you to know is we have our team that you guys are always happy. We're happy to have them jump on a call with you. So we'll drop a link there as well that you guys can just schedule a call with our team, because again, whether it's just you want to learn more, you want to get some more helpful resources, our team just wants to get on a call with you to learn more about who you are, what you're doing. And then if there's some helpful resources, videos, PDFs, things that we can send you, we will definitely do that. But a lot of times, most of the time when we get on those calls, it's people just kind of being like, hey, I just kind of found out about this. Can you guys give me more information so I can learn? Or it's like, hey, I've been doing this, but I still have some questions. Or a lot of times it is hey, I really am all committed. I want to do medical device sales. I really just don't know where to go and where to start, right? And so for us, what we really want to do is just give you guys all of the opportunities to have success. And then the last thing I just want you guys to know, just to continue to just to help you guys break in and have success is, the one thing that we time and time again, and all we keep doing is post the screenshots, post the proof, have them on the podcast, show it on YouTube, like all the stuff is we consistently just get people hired at over six figures. But what people don't really understand is when they want to break into medical device sales, it all starts with mindset, right? And so the biggest thing that we continue to see is that they don't have the right mindset. They don't actually even believe that they're worth $100,000. They don't even know what that would even look like, or how do we get a 22 that just turned 23-year-old hired at over $115,000, or like shout out to Trey, hired at one of the top companies. He's hired at $160,000. I'm actually going to fly out next week to interview him out in Connecticut. And so people are like, how do you do that? And the number one easiest answer is it starts with up here. And so just so you guys know, we'll drop a link down here below. Like we just put a little course together that you guys can get. We always want it to be as affordable as possible, but just for you guys to make sure that you guys can actually learn what that would even look like. And so we actually put together as like a little mindset course to how do you even get into the right mindset to get into these competitive, even just getting a job in medical device sales, because most of you are not in the right mindset. Most of you are all like, hey, it would be cool to do this, but you're not actually believing that you should do it. You could do it. And there's a lot of beliefs. And again, I have been around a lot of mentors, a lot of other people, and it all starts with mindset. It all starts with positivity. It all starts with thinking outside the box. And I can just sit here and tell you the amount of people who've reached out to me and saying that is their favorite thing I've ever produced. It's the most fun because, again, what people think is they think the job makes them, but it's the person who actually will go get the job that they need. So feel free to click those. You guys can just let me know if you guys got them. Just put a thumbs up if you got the actual programs, or if you got any of the PDFs, because we just want to make sure if you got them, we can always reach back out to you on the respected platforms to make sure that you actually did receive them. But the one thing I just want you guys to know is like my whole goal for you is to continue to just give you education, to continue to help you guys break into medical device sales, because like we always say, it doesn't hurt us. It only helps you, right? Like we're here. Many people look in sales like as a lose-lose. Like if you win, I lose. And we don't believe that. We believe you can win and we can win. So we just want to help you guys. And then the last thing for us is it's very exciting for us to be working with companies that we have very good relationships with. And so like knowing what they're looking for. And so that's what I would just sit here and tell you. But again, if you guys want to schedule a call with our team, the links are down below. Like I said, we're always happy to have a call, even just learn more about what we do or how we work with companies and how we help people that are working ballet to get in at over six figures, or like Trey working in engineering to get in at over six figures, and he's only 24. Happy to do that. But then just with that, you have Cassandra, who's over the age of 30, and we got her in at over $170,000 with a top company as well. So, it's just learning how to actually stand out. And if you guys have any questions, you guys can always feel free to message us, direct message us, or you can even just click the link in our website and always schedule a call with us and our team. But again, just want you guys to know my whole goal for each and every single person is I want you to win. I want you to go after your goals. Just know it is absolutely possible, because we literally do it every single day. And if you guys are ever wanting a little more help or you have questions, feel free to reach out to us, as we are here. And then if you guys would like, just understand the next time we're all going to be getting together will be 2 weeks from today, so that you guys can go in, jump on there. So it's going to be September 2nd. And so if you guys want to, you guys can always jump there as well. And we can always put that in the chat as well if you guys want to come and jump in. But just understand that love doing this. My whole goal is just to continue to help you guys. I love getting the messages from you. It's why we continuously do this. But just understand that medical device sales, most people will tell me that it's like a career or whatever they're looking for. It's actually what I've learned is people want to feel fulfilled, and people want to feel like they're making a difference in people's lives. And then the big things they're looking for is work-life balance. They want to know about being able to financially be okay, right? And then they also want to talk about career trajectory. And so for me, the biggest thing I want you guys to understand is get you guys into the opportunity. I want you guys to have the opportunity to go do that. I want you to have the opportunity to change your guys' life. So I just want you guys to know that that's why we do everything. And just want to say thank you. And just want to say, Saul Michelle, agree, really gave me the plus that helped me to discover this field, was the mindset. an advanced and hard selection process, right? Even here in Europe, right? So that's the thing. Appreciate you, man. I'm so proud of you, so happy for you. Just understanding, guys, that's one of the things that we focus on is like most people don't want to do things because it's hard. And that's why us and our team and actually the community we built here at New to Medical Device Sales, we actually just get pumped, because if you get pumped about the hard things and you go do it and you're attacking, you're with the right people, like, I'll just say this to kind of end it, because if we're going on the mindset thing, just to have you kind of end it. Most people don't do stuff because it's hard, but it's hard to be broke. It's hard to be overweight. It's hard to do all the aspects, just like it's hard to do what it takes to be successful. It's hard to eat healthy. It's hard to work out every single day. It's hard to do all the things, but you have to choose your hard, right? And do you want to live a hard life of not being able to pay your bills, not be happy with where you're at, hard of not feeling fulfilled, hard of that aspect? Or do you want the hard of, I did the hard things. I woke up early. I went and invested myself. I did all the things that made me put myself in a position to be the person that I want to be, right? And so the one thing I'll just say to that is just understand you guys are always going to choose your hard. And what people, to end it all, don't understand is a lot of times you're always like, if you want to have success and you want to get somewhere, you're always paying something. It's either you're paying time because you're taking way longer than it should, or you're paying money to shorten up that time, right? And so that's what many people miss. But I will just sit here and tell you, with the most love in my heart, that's what the very successful people very understand, is because, again, notice how all the professional athletes have multiple coaches, right? All the top business people have mentors, right? And so just understand, to you all, it's just the mindset. Get excited. This is an industry that can change your life. And if you guys haven't, we will see you on September 2nd. But hopefully this was as helpful as it can be. Like I said, you guys can go and click on the links down below to either get over 100 medical device companies. That's all in a PDF that will be sent to you. So you can go sign up there. It's down below. If you guys want to just learn from our team, and our team gets on a call with you to learn more about who you are, what your background is, any advice they can give you to help you through that process, we're happy to do that. And then lastly, on top of that, if you want to do any of the like mindset, get yourself in a right mindset so you actually can go get 6-figure jobs, so you can actually break into the top company and beat out 500 plus people who have a lot of experience. We put that in there for you guys as well. And then lastly, we'll be doing it next 2 weeks from now in September, and we will see you then.